Just decide to make an upgrade. Welcome back to another episode of the Upgrade My Classroom podcast. My name is Kevin McKella, the host, and this is the show where we teach proactive mental health and personal development strategies for teens. So teachers, educators, administrators, social workers, whoever in the education space can take a listen, maybe pick up a thing or two, and go help make an upgrade in their classroom, in their school, and in their community by teaching really effective SEL frameworks, really effective mental health strategies, and overall personal development strategies for kids that need them the most. And today, oh man, I'm so excited because today is the first guest of 2024. It's not just one guest, it's two. We have Matt and Phil from M&P Presentations, or M&P Presentations. These guys are awesome. So they are a youth speaking duo, and there's extremely few of them that exist, or at least that I know of. And these guys, let me tell you, they bring it. One thing you'll know right off the bat about these two are the level of energy is really, really incredible. They also have a podcast, which is MP in under 3. So their podcast literally is under 3 minutes. And these two are both also professionals in the education space. So we talk a lot about really the education world inside the school, inside a school district, how that really works, how we are reaching kids, how we are reaching parents, how we are, and how those two guys are able to not only teach during the day, but then actually present their programs either at night or in the summer, and how the two and two go hand in hand. So really, really a fantastic conversation with two awesome, high energy, amazing human beings. So without further ado, let's take a listen to my conversation with Matt and Phil. Gentlemen, welcome to the Upgrade My Classroom podcast. Thank you both for being here.
Oh, we are excited. We are honored and just love speaking to like-minded people who are doing positive things. It's an honor to be here.
I can't match. I don't think anybody in the world can match your energy on your show. But I'm trying my best because that energy is just all time. And you know what? Before we even jump in, let's talk about let's jump in with a plug right from the beginning. What is the show that you guys do, and how does it make it so different from any other podcast out there?
Well, thank you for asking, Kevin. A pleasure to be here, brother. Our show is called MP in Under 3. It was birthed from one of Matt's random weird ideas where he said, we love meeting people, we love interacting with positive humans, but I don't know if we have time to do a full podcast. So he's like, what if we did? You get 3 minutes. That's it. We throw a couple questions. They're surprise. And then we always end with the one that we always love to come back to that's important is, what is your recipe for being unstoppable? But basically, that's it. We just actually filmed tonight, Matt, our 50th episode. And we already got 51 and 52, 53 lined up. So we have a good time, man. We meet great people that are just positive, everyday heroes and humans lifting up the world. And we do it in 3 minutes in a high energy way. That's it.
You can't be low energy if you want to fit in 3 minutes. It's really, really cool. So anybody listening to this, definitely check it out. Really, really cool concept, really cool show. So without further ado, let's jump in. I want to say, again, thank you so much for being here. Matt, Phil, obviously from M&P Presentations. Let's talk a little bit about what this is. What is M&P Presentations?
Yes, the origins, if you will, Kevin.
Please.
So M&P started way back in February of 2013, where Phil and I took the stage for the very first time at a school event in which they were very low on funds. So when you're low on funds, who do you think of? You think of Matt and Phil. So what we did was we sat down with each other at my house and basically had a yellow pad, and it was both of us had an interest in public speaking without the other one even knowing it. We were basically randomly matched up. We knew of each other, but we didn't really know each other. But we quickly discovered through our prep and work of preparing for this presentation that our morals and values really had some serious crossover. And we were both so passionate about the topics of embracing the awkward, the ordinary being extraordinary, and then lifting up others by having them exhibit their self-confidence. One thing leads to another. We give our first presentation in front of a small audience in February of 2013. And then, Phil, take us from there. How did we record that night? Where did it go from that moment on that we've been so fortunate to have been on this journey?
We were having such a genuine time preparing and doing it and feeling like, hey, this is something that's important for young adults to hear and to develop. We said, maybe we're on to something. Maybe this is something valuable, not just for our school that we're helping in our district, but maybe other schools. So we found a friend who had an old school camcorder, and we burned about Matt luckily knew how to, what was it, iMovie, Matt? You knew how to use iMovie back then, or?
I have no idea. I was able to burn an unedited presentation onto a DVD.
Yeah. And then we edited it up and made a little, 2-minute promo, and we old school mailed to 50 schools and just said, hey, we're two educators that have this message, and our message is, as Matt said, we love to build self-confidence in others. And from there, we think it opens up so many doors to positive mindset, jumping on healthy risks, and opening the doors for opportunities. And we said, in case you have anyone that would be value from that, let us know. And a couple people crazily just called back, and that was how it started. And it just grew organically into something. And I don't know, in about a year or so, Matt, we were kind of on the map, and I think we were like, holy cow, I think we're professional speakers now. So it was awesome. It was, we loved every second of it. We loved the prep. We loved meeting new people. It was just as much we felt impactful as it was, Matt, would you say selfish? We enjoyed it ourselves as well. And now it's been almost 11 years coming up February 2024. And we're grateful for the experience. It's made our lives better. It's made us better humans. It's pushed us to live by what we preach. And because of it, I couldn't imagine my life without it.
You know what's crazy is that was 10 years ago. 10 years is not a long time, but in a way it is. And to think how far we've come, because I remember 2013 very well. I was doing my master's work in Belgium, and I remember I had the iPhone 4, and I was able to put a SIM card in it, to a Belgian, a European SIM card, to be able to like make calls and and like to think how far we've come. Do you guys do you think let me ask you this randomly for a business marketing perspective. Do you think it was easier or harder to market yourself with limited technology in the first few years versus now?
Wow. I feel like the resources obviously have multiplied in today's current society. However, I felt like it was more fun back then because it was so much fresher. And if you were consistently posting with new graphics, or if Phil and I had a new idea of how we wanted to promote an upcoming event or a show, everything was so fresh. Where I feel like now, I mean, basically, unless you're walking down the street with a petting zoo with a hovercraft above you doing something, like, you're not going to stand out, unfortunately. And I feel like back then there was just so much more uncharted waters that we basically explored. Would you agree, Phil?
Yeah, and I would say too, the world is a lot noisier now with media because, I mean, and for good reason. In this time in history, you have a huge platform to market yourself for free. All it takes is time. I mean, we can make high quality videos edited just through our iPhones that sound good and are way higher quality than something that was 20 years ago almost professionally done. So as far as the ease of creating, I think it's incredible how much easier it is now, but I think it is noisier. But what stands the test of time, in all honesty, and I know this isn't a business podcast, but is word of mouth and referrals. Humans always reach out to other humans and say, hey, these guys were good. You can trust them. And that is always going to be, I think, the number one way still you get majority of your business. It's no matter what gimmick you have online. And don't get me wrong, it's great if it catches fire and people get to know you more. But in the end, it's word of mouth. Hey, my friend Kevin from the podcast said you two were good. Can we have a talk and maybe you end up speaking at our event. It's still human to human contact still seems to be the number one way to do business as far as referrals.
Yeah, I agree. I just kind of was a selfish curiosity there. Yeah, it's really it's very, very interesting where we're going, and I would love to kind of come back to the technology route of when it comes to how kids are interacting with technology. But I do want to jump into your professional lives, both as educators and counselors, as well as your speaking world. And what's really interesting is that there's very few duos out there, for lack of a better word, dual partner programs. I think like two others offhand. And I think that when it comes to, speaking and putting on mental health programs and for whether it's teen institutes or leadership organizations, whatever, doing it by yourself is a challenge enough. Teaming up with somebody and being successful for over a decade takes a lot of things to make that happen. What are some? I mean, this happened organically. So, what are some of the things that worked really, really well, and maybe one or two challenges that you guys have faced when it comes to working together as a team? Just whether it's simple as logistics, or maybe even bigger things of direction of where the program wants to go. How has that journey been like for you guys working together?
For sure. I could definitely hop right into the water and let us know that I feel like we have been such a success. Basically, everything is based on open communication and transparency. I feel like there has never, over the past 10 years, has there ever been a closed door on something that we can't address or topics that we can't discuss with each other. We ultimately both have an all-in mindset to pursue different goals and missions only if we are each authentically and organically being pulled to that mission. Yeah. And if we're both on the same page with that, absolutely unstoppable, and the sky is the limit. So I basically feel like it boils down to authenticity, open communication, and being true to what we both internally feel like are important messages to pursue.
Yeah, I would also say that being a duo is a strength in a lot of ways. If you look 10 years ago and to present day, I would say the humans' attention spans have dropped, and to have two humans speaking with that look different, sound different, different tonality, different slight points of view with the similar background message, I think it's to our advantage. So if we go to an audience and some of those members, aren't just, are turned off by me, maybe too many tattoos, or I got a weird haircut, or I'm too loud and energetic, where take it easy, Matt. Or just people, for some reason, I'm just really not their cup of tea. A lot of times people will naturally gravitate towards Matt. But in the end, after that 60-minute keynote, we've both been promoting the same exact message, just in our own organic way. And the beautiful thing is the audience got it. They might not have got it from both of us, but more than likely they gravitated towards one of us. So I think it's actually was an accidental advantage that we never realized. We just really like doing it together. We're best buds. As Matt said, we're open communication. And because of that, I think it allows us to thrive, and it's better together. It's more fun to do like something like that with a friend and connect with the audience.
And Kevin, have there been hard conversations over the years? Absolutely, 100%. But the thing that we're realizing is that in some professional relationships, some of the conversations that we potentially had could have led to disagreement or anger. But in Phil and I's mind, what we've been channeling is we address certain topics, and from those topics, we each give each other ideas as to maybe if we have independent missions or goals that we're shooting for, aiming for, it turns into a support mission for that person. And it's been nothing but healthy, open, and organic, where I feel like I've turned into the best version of myself thanks to Phil. And I feel like I hopefully in turn gave the same favor back to Phil as we went on over the years too.
Agreed.
Wow, what a mature last few minutes I've ever heard. I think we're lacking so much maturity in our culture. That was awesome. So it's funny because all the things that make you guys work so well together, the authenticity and the organic nature of what directions you want to go and where you want to. I feel like that has some reflection of what you guys actually speak about to the students that you work with. I like to dig into your programs a little bit. I came across the one word that really kept popping around throughout your site, which was self-confidence. Would you agree that self-confidence is a huge part of what you guys, each program that you present, or does it just happen to be that self-confidence is, baked into each program and it's not necessarily the most important, but it was the first one listed, and if it is the most important, why? Why does self-confidence matter so much?
Yeah, thank you for noticing. We definitely like to say we're cultivators of confidence and promoters of positivity. So everything that we do, even though we have different keynotes with different messages, the underlying tone is always when we build our self-confidence, that's our foundation for everything else. So to answer your question, Kevin, like why confidence? Why is it so important? We think that truly the confident people are the humans that say, you know what, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to set boundaries. I'm going to get enough sleep in a world where this is, full of hustle culture, which, hey, there ain't nothing wrong with hustling, but make sure you get your sleep. I'm confident enough to say, yes, I will do that. And when I do it, I'll be all in. I'm also confident enough to say, no, that's not for me. I'm confident enough to say, I'm going to try this. And if I fail, I'm going to learn from it. So everything, when Matt and I boiled down our lives, and Matt and I are just ordinary dudes, but we like to say we absolutely live extraordinary lives. And we never knew why we were confident in being ourselves, but we both grew up confident just being us. And because of that, it's allowed us to become outliers in a lot of different areas. We've become role models to young adults being teachers, and I guess that takes confidence to even say that out loud, right? Without fearing people think that I'm being boastful or audacious, but we are role models to young adults. We're confident enough to have those conversations. So we think back to, why are we so happy the way we are? And we always feel like it's still upstream boils down to that idea of confidence. Matt, would you agree or add to that?
100%, Phil. You hit it on the head. We always say you have to have the pillow test at night, where when you put your head down on your pillow at night, were you the best version of yourself in your own skin? That's what it boils down to. And if you have that peace of mind at the end of the day, you start the next day even more unstoppable thanks to that foundation of self-confidence. And Phil and I know how lucky we are at our presentations that we have a 60-minute window where maybe we could provide at least one opportunity for a random person to completely change their trajectory in that 60 minutes by exhibiting self-confidence and taking a healthy risk.
Self-confidence. Okay, wonderful. I would love to hear one of you guys or both of you guys tell me a tactic that you use in your programs to actually develop or at least have a student experience what it's like to feel self-confident and be self-confident. And if it's not necessarily a tactic, maybe an experience in one of your programs that was very memorable, where one student had this breakthrough of like, oh, this is what it feels like to be confident. And oh, this is why I know this is going to be so good for me.
Absolutely, Kevin. And I'd like to preface this by saying that every presentation for, I'd say, the first 20 to 25 minutes is a lot of reflection over the lives that Phil and I have led with honest, true, organic, awkward, embarrassing stories, because we want to break down that barrier so students could see us as humans, not just as speakers, not just as professionals, but okay, these guys went through some weird stuff too, and they're being open and honest about it. So number one, we like to set the table to build that level of comfort as the presentation goes on. We plant the seed as an investment to hopefully get more crowd participation and energy, which we've been undefeated with doing, Phil, and I'll say that with confidence. But one opportunity that stands out, Kevin, that I always will remember in terms of self-confidence is we had a random student who was on the stage. We were at an all-school assembly. And after a number of different activities, we said, there's one individual on stage right now who is desperate for a bear hug. They need the biggest bear hug in front of this entire student body. Who is going to be comfortable and confident enough, damn it, to get up, raise their hand, and tell us? The place goes berserk. Hands are in the air. Teachers are looking around like, who is actually going to do this? And I kid you not, Kevin, in the back row, there was one student sitting all by himself. Hands crossed the whole presentation, and he put that damn ham up in the air. Everybody turns to look at him. Phil says, "You get on down here." And this kid came down. He strutted all the way down that auditorium, picked up that person on the stage, and it legitimately felt like the halftime at the Super Bowl, Kevin. The place was up for grabs, but it was that moment where maybe that kid never joined a club, a sport, and activity in all their years of high school, but they will always stand out as the one who gave the bear hug. And maybe that turned a new page for them that, hell, if I step outside of my comfort zone, good things can still happen.
Yeah. And to preface that, Kevin, everything that we do has a innocent humor to it. So nothing is ever too serious in our talks. We love humor. We think it heals. We think it allows people to break walls down. So all these confident building things that we do, like challenges, basically we give people healthy risks to take. Could be something as ridiculous as making a bird mating call, and we give them the bird picture. It could be as simple as finding someone to give them a bear hug, no haircut.
No. That's their next presentation.
Yeah.
You're giving
Shaving a
haircut.
head. Yes. But all the things we do, and we do a plethora of unique, random, awkward things. Yeah. And afterwards, we always, because it's the teachers in us, we say, that was ridiculous, wasn't it? And they're clapping and laughing and screaming. Like, but what really happened? It took confidence to get in front of all 800 of you students to do something like that. And how many of you wouldn't be caught dead doing that, right? That wouldn't be comfortable enough. And we're not here to bring you down, but to think about that, like the power of being able to be comfortable enough to say, I know this is ridiculous, but I also know that this is going to be fun for the audience and I'm going to be a part of this. That's super empowering. And for young adults to give them the opportunity to laugh, do that, experience that. Matt and I like to say that we think a few hours after the presentation, when people are still talking about, can you believe so-and-so did that? And I think that's really when the message that we've been planting starts to sink in, that not everybody can do that, and that's okay. But the people who are confident really can stand out. The people who are confident can really grab hold of life. The people who are confident can really take healthy risks. And they're not going to be dumb, ridiculous ones like we do, but maybe they're going to now go out and try out for that club. Maybe they're going to go ask that person to the dance. Maybe they're going to go into that restaurant and put an application in and finally human up and just step outside and be okay with maybe I'll be rejected. But that is our whole mantra of trying to build the self-confidence, but we do it in an innocent, ridiculous way and then bring it back to show them that it really wasn't as ridiculous as it seemed at the time.
I think that's awesome. I think that's what a lot of, now I'm going to go in a different direction here. I'm assuming, since you guys are full-time educators, I'm assuming that most of your, if not all of your programs that you speak at are, say, teen institutes, leadership organizations. You don't necessarily go to a school during a school day and do some assembly, correct?
Correct. We have limited personal time that we're able to use per year, and we look at those days as if we are able to get an all-school assembly, that's what we do. But typically, you're right, it is more of a teen institute evening weekend type event. But we have been known to rock a few all-school assemblies in our day too, which we're very proud of.
Sure. So the reason I ask is because I feel like that when it comes to school districts in particular, and especially organizations and CTSO, things like that, I feel like they're really looking for a speaker and a professional to come in and have these types of exercises and scenarios and engaging activities for these kids versus somebody come up there and tell them their sob story or the life story or whatever it is. Do you agree with that?
Actually, when Phil and I first started speaking, our ultimate reflection when we sat down for the first time was we have been to a number of events where there's speakers who overcame a very serious tragedy, which is extremely powerful and important to be heard. Please hear us.
Right.
And then we see people who perhaps won gold medals who are coming in saying about their victories and success. But then Phil and I looked at each other and said, well, we're kind of those guys in the middle who just want to promote being the best version of you or the ordinary. So why can't we be that middle group that we focus on? And it's funny you bring that up. That was a major part of our mission when we first got it started, was that we wanted that middle group of individuals to realize it's okay to be in that spot, but damn it, we're going to make the most of that spot, and we're going to be confident, happy, and healthy.
And I would also say that depending on the venue, some people want that really heart-wrenching story that pulls it out. And there is, as Matt said, huge power into some of those incredible stories. That's definitely not Matt and I. Like, you leave our presentations hurting from your face smiling and your stomach from laughing. Awesome. I mean, so that's just a different energy, and we belong with certain groups and not with others. But I would agree that I would say interactive presentations, like you said, that have some type of activity and interaction, I think a lot of people thrive on and enjoy. But again, some people have powerful stories. The thing about Matt and I is we love to tell our audience is that there's nothing unique about us that we do that our audience can't do. We can do they can do the same exact things, but by being confident enough to take those risks, they're going to allow themselves to grow and become outliers in whatever they want to be. And we don't do that to be outliers. It just kind of happens that way because we're consistent and take care of ourselves and are willing to step out of our comfort zone. But yeah, it's a great question. But something that we enjoy saying is that we're like air traffic control and that our audience is really the show. They get to know us, but really they're not talking about us afterwards. They're talking about their peers.
What they did, right.
And that's what's important to us. It really isn't about us. It's about them. And we take great pride in that. Sometimes they're like, wow, I love these guys and I barely know them still, you know? And it's like, well, that's fine. We can come back for our next keynote and you can learn a little bit more about us too.
There you go. Wink, wink. That right there tells me that you are veterans in this field, because if you ask somebody who started a year or two ago, they might not have that much of a clarity of an answer as to why they do certain things. So fantastic. Very, very impressed. I want to shift to your education careers. So did you always know that you wanted to be in the education field? And what I'd also like to touch on is that once you started teaching and then you obviously got hooked up together and started your program, you mentioned that the program has made you better teachers. Let's dig into that a little bit. How is that the case?
I would wholeheartedly say it reinforces the power of being human with your students. Basically, listening, speaking with respect, transparency, and with genuine positive intention. And when we're presenting and we see students in a whole different way from a school that we have no idea where they're from, what they're doing, what their background is, but when you could bring out that positive emotion of somebody that you barely even know, it makes you reflect of thinking, my goodness, imagine the impact I'm making on a daily basis to students I'm fortunate enough to get to work with every single day. And it basically builds so much more gratitude for being in that position full-time as an educator, and just reinforcing what we're doing on the stage of building self-confidence, listening, giving the spotlight to others, lifting up others. And I feel like that's such an important piece of education that goes by the wayside so many times, the importance of recognizing and lifting up the success of others.
Phil, hold on. I want to hear your thoughts, but I want to just interject really quick. Matt, why do you think, well, first let me ask you if you think that what you just said is an issue when it comes to the average teacher. Is it hard for the average teacher to be able to see between the lines, look for the student of, what they're really needing from you as a teacher, and being able to really give them your whole heart and be able to, instill not only the confidence, but all these wonderful other traits? Do you think that's a hard thing for other teachers to do? And why is that?
Well, I could speak on the side of it. Being a school counselor, I have the luxury of having one-on-one, uninterrupted conversations with students. I am not in a position where I'm in front of 30 students trying to conduct a lesson, trying to build positive relationships, keeping classroom management intact. That is definitely more Phil's world, which I feel is a much, much more challenging world. I feel like I have the luxury of establishing these relationships within my office, in my confines of a very controlled environment where I feel like I have more creative control as to how do I build that professional relationship and how do I maintain it.
Okay.
What
do you
Matt,
think, Phil?
did you always know you wanted to be a teacher, or did that something to come later?
I always knew I wanted to get into education because of my mom's journey. She was a special education teacher for 35 years. And I always saw my mom coming home from work every day in the most positive of moods. I never knew what she did. When I was younger, all I knew is that, my goodness, my mom is always in the best mood possible. And I want to be like my mom. So I decided I wanted to go into education. And here I am in my 16th year as a school counselor. I was a special education teacher for 6 years, and now I'm finishing up my 10th year as a counselor.
Awesome. That's like such a, that's as wholesome as American Pie, man. That was great. American Pie. No, that's not wholesome. No,
well,
I meant apple pie.
Apple pie. Right.
I'm okay with both references, so no worries here. And Kevin, speaking of apple pies, that was actually the career I was going to go into most of my life. I was going to go to culinary school. I absolutely love to cook, bake, and create in the kitchen. But after a lot of great guidance from awesome adults in my life, I worked in a bunch of different restaurants and realized that wasn't a career, that was a passion. And lucky for me, I had an amazing chemistry teacher who helped me figure out that, high school is my place to teach science. So I knew at 17 years old, my junior year, the light switch went on that, yes, I should be a chemistry and physics teacher. And I never looked back after that. So I was lucky to have awesome role models in my life that supported me and helped me figure out something that was right in front of my face that I didn't even see. So that's how I got into my education journey. And this is my 19th school year as a chemistry and physics teacher. And then as far as commenting also on what Matt said, I'll go the opposite way. Matt said how us speaking allows us to be better at our craft teaching. I also think that us being teachers allows us to be better public speakers and reach our audience, and also have a pulse on attention and what works and what doesn't. So we're very lucky for that. And then also to answer your previous question, Kevin, about do you think that's something that humans or teachers lack, or is hard for them to get that human connection deep down inside? I think a lot of this boils down once again to self-confidence. When educators are comfortable with who they are, and I think that takes time and experience, but once they really know who they are, I think me as a young teacher, I protected myself with an ego, right? Because of my insecurities as a young teacher. And I'm sure occasionally I would accidentally push away a student, not realizing it. But as I've grown comfortable with myself, older, and I feel like I've expanded my heart more through this work and just through being an educator, I think that's something you grow into. So I think it's more natural for some people than others, but I do think that comes with experience.
Yeah. Now, the reason I ask is because right now specifically in the last 4 years, but even still, in the last quite a few years, the education profession has just become so difficult for teachers in particular, because they have been losing trust on all ends. And it's not their fault. It's just they've been losing trust by the parents. They've been losing trust by the administration. They've been losing trust by the board. And it's very difficult. So they're really being boxed into a world where sometimes the last thing on their mind is going above and beyond for a student. Meanwhile, if they're really able to see it, is that if they are able to go just that extra step and have that one extra conversation, take that extra prep to sit down with that student for 20 minutes and really just let them speak and listen, be their coach instead of their teacher, that actually will help the classroom management and the grades and all the other issues, So I think it's very difficult the landscape that education is going through right now. But it's just a world that I have not been in. I have not been in the classroom since 2015. And even before then, that was only a permanent leave replacement. So before then, anytime really full-time teaching was like 2012. So, I read the headlines and I hear, and I when I get a teacher in front of me, I like to just kind of see what's happening and see if that is the case. And if it's not, great. But if it is, what are some of the things that maybe teachers can do when it comes to their not only mental health, but their physical health too, to be able to have them walk in the classroom? We talked about this earlier, that you guys are really invested in your physical state management and your healthy habits and lifestyle, which is, it's speaking true to my heart. So it's really cool. Do you guys have any suggestions on how teachers can foster a better, not only mental but physical routine for themselves, where they can step into the classroom and say, I'm ready to rock today?
Yeah, Kevin, I feel with the utmost sincerity that when you wake up and enter school feeling like the best version of yourself, students are going to pick up on it. Students are going to gravitate towards you because you are being authentic and true and being the best version of yourself. And Phil and I could go on about this for hours. It all comes down to self-care, making sure that you physically feel like the best version of you. By that we mean, how are you prioritizing your time when you get home from work before you go to work? Are you making sure you're getting your 8 hours of sleep? Are you making sure that you are showering, dressing the way that you want to? Very simple topics that Phil and I always say they're talking about in kindergarten and first grade, but that's why they're telling you in kindergarten and first grade, because they are such magnificent topics to speak of. Are you incorporating physical fitness? If you're afraid to take that step, what resources do you have at your school to help you get started on that process? And Phil and I, maybe to our own faults, but are super structure oriented and schedule oriented before school. When we get home from school, we create time slots and time frames to make sure that we are able to give 100% to every aspect of our lives, as husbands, as fathers, as educators, as speakers. But by creating that schedule and structure, we feel like we're already one step ahead on the next day before the day even gets started. And I know, Phil, that you and I have very similar routines, but do you want to talk about how our routines impact how we feel when we walk into work every day?
Well, yeah, the research alone in positive psychology all overlaps with when you have a solid schedule and you build in the things that fill you up. They overlap with your character strengths, whatever those may be. That might be love. It might be the love of learning. It might be zest for life. But if you're building in those things naturally into your schedule without any extra mental currency needed, you're hitting on things that fill you up. And when you do that, you start to create more positivity in your bank account, and you're less likely to really burn out because you won't be as depleted when things go wrong like they do every single day. And I mean, in education, nothing ever goes perfectly. That's just part of it. So often people think like, oh, you just get a schedule and that's it, and then you're fine. Well, that's a huge start. But once you do that, all the research shows like people who feel like they don't have enough time in their life because they're always barely making it, it actually has a huge mental toll on you and your positive outlook on life. Even to the point of how it physically impacts you as well, like your immune system and that. And again, this is just all backed by positive psychology research. So when you start with actually, I think so much has to be started upstream, which is why Matt and I are so passionate about this. Like before we can reach kids better, before we can implement the next best research-based teaching strategy, so many teachers aren't ready to handle anything new. They're barely surviving their personal life, and that's rolling over into the professional. So really, we love to pour into our humans that listen to us to, like, you got to take care of your personal side first. And I think people assume then we're talking about bubble baths and candles, which, don't get me wrong, Kevin, if that fills
I'll
your
go
bucket
for it.
up, yeah, and get those bubbles on, baby. But I think that's what everyone, like, they push it off and deflect. Like, I've heard enough about candles and bubble baths, but I'm like, but that's not the only part of self-care. Self-care is about actually structuring your life so that when you go to bed at night, as Matt already said, you won for the day. Overall, you hit a lot of things that fill you up. I saw my family. I ate with my family. I crushed my job today. I got a workout in. I got enough sleep. I listened to music. I listened to an audiobook. I connected with someone brand new like Kevin that's an inspiring human that wants to help the world. Check, 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 check. Now, did I have a lot of weird things like random emails today that I didn't feel like dealing with? Sure, right? Ding, 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 ding. But all of a sudden, I'm still ending up in the positive side of things. So people can push it off all they want, but when you're intentional, it can make a huge difference in how you're showing up to everything in your life as a father, as a husband, as a teacher, as a coworker, as a friend, and to yourself.
And Phil, as is anything in life, you need to step up and do the work. And you have to be consistent with the work. You cannot only have intentions of positive outcome. You need that reality of taking the step by step to build those habits. And it's hard. It takes work. It means getting up early. It means going to bed earlier. It means unplugging from technology. But those are sacrifices that you're investing in your own self, which will then trickle into your family, into your profession. And then the sky's the limit from there.
Yeah.
Perfect. Love it. That again, you're speaking very true to things that were the beginnings of my personal breakthrough. When I realized I can control my life based on what I choose to do and the actions I choose to do. Building a routine and building a structure around my day was the first and most, still today, the most important thing ever. So we're very like-minded on that.
But enough about us, please. Kevin, really quick. What does your schedule and routine look like?
Oh, I know. Yes, Matt, you gave me the best compliment to assume that I even worked out, which is like, it's like, oh, finally. Very well. Thank you. This is not the Kevin show, but I'll. So when I was doing my master's work at the Liège Conservatory in Belgium, this is actually a huge part of my program, the story I tell, where I had this moment where, my life beforehand was like really, really hard because of the limiting beliefs and the issues that I was dealing through, just not knowing how to deal with stress and anxiety in my life. So things got really bad. And then I made that decision to, okay, I'm going to control the one thing I can, and that's music. So I go to study in Belgium, and I'm there and I'm alone in a French speaking part of Belgium. No one knows a lick of English. First couple months were super hard. I'm like, what am I doing? And then all of a sudden something clicked. It was like literally the day I was like, wait a minute. And to be honest with you, I whether you love him or hate him, I'm not even giving my opinion anymore. But Tony Robbins, that was the first thing where I was like watching a YouTube video, and I was like, oh, okay. And I just went down the rabbit hole of personal development. And so I look at that time as, I know is corny, but like as the Batman story, but not Batman, the 10 years where he goes training to be like a ninja, right? Before he becomes Batman, that was like my time. Granted, playing the tuba is not as cool as becoming a ninja, but it was still
depends on who you ask.
Right. It was still very, very informative. So that was the time where I really developed my routine. My routine tries to hit on the, mind, body, emotions. Is pretty simple. So I do here's ideal. Now that after 2 kids, the routine has been restructured a little bit, but it's still there.
Sure.
Ideal for many, many, many years was wake up, do a little water with lemon, as much as that's supposed to alkalize your body or whatever. Maybe a little espresso. First thing, it was 10 minutes of reading because I was fighting against my body's chronotype. I was waking up a little too early, and I knew I had to wake up a little too early to get this routine in, and it was more beneficial for me. But instead of to fight the battle of the bed, I said the easiest thing for me to do was just get right onto the couch and just read 10 minutes. So that process of reading was good because I'm, doing some actual reading and learning, but I'm waking up for that 10-minute period really, and I'm forcing myself to get out of bed. All I have to do is just get out and just sit back on the couch. This is relaxed. I don't have to go running. I don't have to run a mile the first thing I get out of bed. It's just an option. You can do that, but it wasn't the most efficient and most productive thing for me. So read for 10 minutes, then do some breathing, which was a combination of box breathing and different stuff for brass players and stuff. Stretching routine, combination of yoga and other brass instrument things. And then usually it would be, I said meditation, something like that. And then it would just a workout. So whatever strength training workout was scheduled for that day. And that was pretty much it. Maybe some cold showers here and there. So that was the ideal when it was the rise and grind, bro, and everything. And that was, again, before kids. So you just have, it was 2.5 hours long. I could do that.
Yeah. Right.
And
right.
I didn't have to be at school at 6:50. So that's a big difference too. So I've become to realize that, it doesn't have to necessarily all happen in the morning. Things can happen in, the afternoon or breaks between your workday and your whatever, your home life, whatever it is. So that's kind of what I've done for probably the past almost 10 years now. So.
Wonderful. See, that smells structure, that smells success, and a healthy human being.
There we go. Before we wrap up, I want to just come back to one thing we were talking about with, you said, Phil, to become, do certain things and routines to become the best version of you for blah, 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 and then for your family. Let's talk about your family, guys. So you do this, you go obviously traveling, you're busy, you're a teacher. Phil, you did a post something very recently about, I think it was your daughter, I want to say some type of sleeping routine. Maybe it was somebody else. Talk to me about that. And just riff a little bit about your family life. I would love to hear about it.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to. I have 2 children, 11 and 8-year-old, a son and a daughter, and a wife, and very lucky to come home to them every day. Matt and I were just talking about this the other day. Man, I just love being home and being with my family. It's like the ultimate fuel for both of us. We're just lucky to have families. But yeah, my daughter, I usually tuck in every night. And when I do, we always sing a song. And lately we've been fake harmonizing 2 songs, but we're terrible at it. So we sing a song, but it sounds terrible. And then we end up laughing it off. So, but just corny moments like that, being a parent that you don't forget about as you get older and older.
For sure. And I'm more than blessed. I have a wife of 10 years, Bridget, and I have 2 happy, healthy baby boys, Ben and Will, who are 5 and 4 years old. And I have to echo everything that Phil said. Our families are absolutely everything to us. I feel like we are speakers, educators, and try to get in the best shape mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally in our lives because we are fathers and we are husbands. And we want to set the example for our children that we want them to be the best version of themselves. And there's no greater tool for our own children than to watch their dads practice what they preach. And that's something that we're very, very passionate about. And I feel so fortunate at this stage of my life that it's because being a father, I feel like I have a very strict structure, routine, and schedule, which makes me feel like all of my puzzle pieces are officially in place at such a young age, which I feel so blessed about, that I know my recipe for being the best version of me. And I feel like there's a lot of people who sadly could go a lifetime without finding those elements that make them feel like they need to feel. And I'm so blessed to know that I'm in that stage of my life already.
Last thing before we wrap up, I'm just because I'm so you're literally speaking to exactly kind of things that I'm dealing with right now. Agree. I'm right there with you. I know what makes me tick. I know what works. Is it okay to not do what you know is the right thing to do? Meaning you're tired, meaning you forgot to do your Sunday schedule, meaning you just got caught up in emotions that day. Is that all right? And if it is maybe just give some love, because what it is for me, when I hear that, I'm like, yes, I know all that. Oh, today, I snapped at my kiddo. She's 3 years old and she wasn't listening, and I snapped at her and I shouldn't have done that. Was it because of something I didn't do this morning? Was it something like, is it okay to screw up?
I think it's not only okay, I think it's normal.
Yeah.
I think that you have to give yourself grace. The reason you set these structures in place is so that majority of the time you're able to hit on those things when you can. But everybody knows that no matter what, you're not going to hit that schedule every day perfectly. I think it's rarely a day you get it absolutely perfect. But if you don't have the intention set to try to have that, then you're almost guaranteed to never hit any of them. So even if you're gonna miss a workout occasionally, or maybe you miss a bedtime where you can't sing with your daughter good night, even though that throws you off a little bit, you've got enough built up in the bank to know that, hey, tomorrow's another day. I'm going to get to that tomorrow as well and try it all over again. I think we have to give ourselves grace. I think also as humans in modern day, I think we overschedule ourselves, and I would be guilty of that as well. But luckily, because of my structure, kind of lets me know when it's like, yeah, you are overscheduled. You can't fit that in anymore. You would be taking too many of those, as Matt kind of said, the puzzle pieces out of it.
Beautifully said.
I'd have to echo what Phil said too, though. And I think the beautiful thing is when you know you're making a mistake, the powerful thing is actually realizing that you made the mistake and realizing, hey, I don't like the way that this makes me feel. So in essence, you're almost reprogramming yourself to become even bigger, badder, and better in the future by recognizing I did something wrong. Mm-hmm. I know that. I'm going to remember this feeling, and how could I revise it or make it better in the future?
Yeah.
Gentlemen, awesome. Beautifully said. What a wholesome and wonderful way to wrap up today's show. What I'd like to ask you is to let the audience know where they can find a little bit more about the one, the only M&P Presentations. I'm trying to do.
We are obnoxiously everywhere, aren't we? Friends, yeah, I'm Phil. That's Matt. We're M&P Presentations LLC. If you look us up, just search M&P Presentations on Google and you'll find us, of course. But we're www.mppresentations.com, and all of our handles are the same, MP Presentations. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You'll find us. We're anywhere. And just look us up. We'd love to connect. Just like Kevin, we organically met through a common awesome friend named Brittany Richmond, who, by the way, if you don't know her, you should. She's an outstanding human. But we love this area and space of personal growth and people just trying to make the world a better place. And the more people you know like that, the even greater people you start to meet. So it's an awesome thing. So, Kevin, it's been an honor, man. Thanks for having us on.
Thank you, Phil.
And Kevin, thank you so much for everything. And Phil and I like to think that you're only as good as the company you keep. And we're very lucky to have you now in the circle, Kevin. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I had a blast chopping it up with Matt and Phil. These guys are awesome. Such a pleasure. And I'm so happy to have kind of met them and have them, in our network, and hopefully we'll hear from them again. So if you want to learn a little bit more about what these guys do and how they help kids, definitely head over to mppresentations.com, or of course you could find them on literally any social media platform. And it's such a pleasure. If you like today's episode, then let me know by hitting like and of course hitting subscribe and hitting the bell notification to be notified every time I release a new video. And if you like today's episode, then you might also like this one right over here.